I saw a couple at the hardware store last week standing in front of that giant wall of paint swatches. You know, the 1,000 shades of what is essentially just white, all shimmering under those cold fluorescent lights. The man was holding two of them up. He turned to his partner and said, "Look, they're both white. Can we just pick one? I want to get this done today." He wasn't angry, but his jaw was tight with an energy that just wanted to solve it, to build the thing, finish the project. He was trying to provide the structure. Her reaction was quiet, almost invisible. She didn't even look at the paint swatches he was holding. She just looked at him, and her shoulders slumped a little as she said, "It's not just about getting it done. I need it to feel right." A heavy silence fell between them. To him, her need to feel it was just a delay. To her, his need to do it felt like a dismissal. They weren't fighting about paint. They were fighting because he was trying to protect her from the problem, and she was trying to create a home, and neither one felt seen by the other. It's the scene that plays out everywhere, in 1,000 different ways. A quiet signal that maybe we've forgotten the fundamental dance that makes everything actually work. That seemingly simple interaction at the hardware store, the desire to get it done versus the need for it to feel right, it perfectly encapsulates the core of what we're diving into today. This deep dive is all about the universal interplay of different energies, sometimes referred to as masculine and feminine. And crucially, we're talking about these not as rigid gender stereotypes tied to biology, but as fundamental sort of archetypal approaches to life, relationships, and even organizational strategy. Our mission is to unpack how these energies manifest within our personal lives, influence massive societal shifts, and even shape the corporate world. We'll be drawing insights from psychology, sociology, and business strategy to explore how recognizing and maybe more importantly, balancing these energies can lead to greater authenticity, healthier relationships, and, well, more robust, successful organizations. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with Carl Jung's fascinating ideas about the unconscious mind. Jung was, well, a pioneer in understanding the deep hidden layers of our psyche, right? Mm-hmm. And he introduced these powerful concepts he called the anima and animus.
That's right. He defined the anima as the unconscious feminine side of a man and the animus as the unconscious masculine side of a woman. But it's really important to understand that for Jung, these weren't just personal quirks or, individual traits. He saw them as contrasexual soul images or archetypes, rooted in what he called the collective unconscious.
The collective unconscious, like a shared blueprint.
Exactly. Think of it as a universal psychic blueprint shared by all humans, containing these patterns of experience and behavior that have been passed down through generations. These are the deep underlying currents that influence how we perceive ourselves and interact with the world around us. What's truly profound here is how these archetypes tend to manifest in our relationships. Jung observed this phenomenon called projection, where we unconsciously cast our inner anima or animus onto our romantic partners.
Projection. So we're seeing something from inside ourselves, but out there in the other person.
Precisely. He famously said, "Every man carries within him the eternal image of woman, an imprint or archetype of all the ancestral experiences of the female, a deposit, as it were, of all the impressions ever made by woman." And there's a parallel for women, naturally, carrying an inner masculine image. So when that initial spark of attraction ignites, often we're not just seeing the person in front of us.
We're seeing the image.
Yes, we're seeing an idealized image from our own depths. It's this deep, often unseen pull that draws us in.
It sounds quite romantic initially, doesn't it? This idea of finding someone who perfectly embodies your inner ideal. But tell me, how does this beautiful spark, this projection, sometimes become a source of, well, profound difficulty or misunderstanding in real relationships?
Yeah, it's a critical point.
Yeah.
While projection often initiates that spark of romantic love, it can become a significant source of difficulty because you're essentially trying to fit a real complex human being into an unconscious ideal.
Right, like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, maybe.
Kind of. As Jungian analyst M. Esther Harding explained, projection of the anima or animus onto the partner is dangerous because one then tries to force the partner to act in a certain way which has nothing to do with his or her real personality. Imagine the pressure that puts on a partner. They can never truly live up to this unconscious ideal, right? Which leads to profound disappointment and, well, conflict.
That makes sense. So what's the way out? What did Jung suggest?
Jung's solution, and it's a core tenet of his work, was the crucial step of withdrawing these projections. The path to true wholeness, what he termed individuation, involves recognizing that these qualities belong to you, not solely to your partner, and cultivating them internally.
Us. So owning your own stuff, basically.
Exactly. It's an inner sacred marriage that allows for a more conscious and authentic relationship with oneself and, by extension, with others.
That makes perfect sense. It's like you initially see the ideal, but then the reality sets in, and if you haven't done that inner work, you're constantly trying to sculpt your partner into something they're not. So Jung laid this incredible groundwork, but, as societal views evolve, I'm curious how these ideas have been refined or even challenged since his time. Because his original formulation, while groundbreaking, was, well, rooted in a more binary view of gender, that contemporary thought has definitely moved beyond.
Absolutely. Post-Jungian thinkers have really taken these concepts and expanded upon them, making them more fluid and applicable to everyone. For instance, Erich Neumann, a prominent Jungian, introduced the idea of stages of anima development. He suggested that our inner contrasexual image isn't static, but actually evolves through different levels of maturity.
Like stages of growth for that inner part.
Precisely. By understanding these stages, you can actually diagnose where you might be stuck in your own psychological development and consciously work towards a more integrated and whole inner life. It's like a developmental roadmap for your soul.
Interesting. And who else built on this?
And then you have James Hillman, the founder of archetypal psychology, who really shook things up. He challenged Jung's rigid alignment of anima animus with biological sex stereotypes. Hillman reconceived the anima as representing psychic interiority, that deep, reflective inner world, regardless of your biological gender.
So the inner space, the feeling part.
Exactly. And conversely, he saw the animus as embodying external engagement with the world, the drive to act, to make an impact, to manifest outwardly. This broadened the scope significantly. Isn't that fascinating?
It really is, because it immediately liberates these concepts from being just about men and women in the traditional sense. It's about an inner landscape everyone possesses. And leading on from that, feminist Jungians like Naomi Goldenberg took it even further.
Yes, they did. Their inclusive model proposes that everyone, regardless of their sex or gender identity, has both an anima, representing the capacity for affiliation, and relatedness, for connection.
The connecting energy.
Right. And an animus, representing the ability to take action and make an impact on the world. This framework truly frees these concepts from strict gender binaries, making them far more universal. It's about recognizing these fundamental energies within each of us, rather than assigning them strictly by biological sex.
Okay, so we have these inner archetypes, anima and animus. But what happens when they're not well integrated? You mentioned possession.
Right. When we connect this to the bigger picture, one of Jung's most profound insights was the danger of anima-animus possession. When these archetypes aren't integrated, but instead overpower the conscious personality. This can lead to destructive behaviors. When a person is seized by their inner contrasexual archetype, they can become completely identified with its qualities, often in an unhelpful or, exaggerated way.
Can you give an example? It sounds quite dramatic.
Well, Jungian analyst Robert Johnson provides a really instructive case study of this kind of possession in a marriage in his book, We: Understanding the Psychology of Romantic Love. Johnson worked with a couple, let's call them Jack and Betty, who fell in love at first sight and impulsively married after knowing each other only a few months.
Oh, sounds like a recipe for something.
Well, at first, their relationship felt magically fated. It was as if they had always known each other, like they completed each other in every way. But before long, trouble arose. Jack started to feel suffocated by what he perceived as the constant emotional tumult of the marriage. He felt like he was losing himself, kind of drowning in a sea of irrational heart feelings and unending relational processing.
Okay, I can see how that would feel overwhelming.
And Betty, for her part, began to resent Jack's increasingly distant conflict avoidance stance. She doubled down on her efforts to force an emotional connection.
Which probably just pushed him away more.
Exactly. Driving Jack further into stonewalling and withdrawal.
It sounds like a classic dynamic. Two people caught in a trap where their initial attraction turns into a source of friction. So what was going on beneath the surface with Jack and Betty from a Jungian perspective?
In Johnson's analysis, Jack and Betty had fallen into an intense anima-animus possession. Jack's anima, the archetype of eros and relatedness, was projected lock, stock, and barrel onto Betty.
So he expected her to handle all the relationship stuff, all the feeling.
Pretty much. He expected her to carry all of his emotional burden. Meanwhile, Betty's animus, her inner masculine drive for strength and dependability, was hooked by Jack's seemingly strong, invulnerable facade.
Ah, so she saw him as the strong, silent type, the rock.
Right. But as with all such possession states, the projections eventually shattered against the sobering realities of their human limitations. Jack wasn't an invulnerable pillar of strength, as Betty's animus image craved, and Betty couldn't provide the perfectly attuned, unconditional love of Jack's anima fantasy.
So the illusions broke down. What happened then?
The couple spiraled into increasingly volatile fight cycles, with Jack exploding in defensive rages and Betty attacking with tears and recrimination. The relationship became, in Johnson's words, a living hell, as each partner unconsciously sought to force the other to embody their projected animus ideal.
Wow. That's such a powerful illustration of how these unconscious dynamics can turn a seemingly fated love into a living nightmare. What was the path out for them? How do they break free from this cycle?
It was only through painstaking shadow work and therapy that Jack and Betty began to reclaim their projections. It wasn't easy. Jack had to learn to bear his own vulnerable, what he called feminine feelings, rather than placing the burden of his emotionality onto Betty.
He had to own his own feelings.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Betty developed her own masculine capacity to tolerate conflict and soothe herself, rather than demanding that Jack play the role of her unflappable rock.
So she had to find her own inner strength, her own structure.
Exactly. Gradually, the couple disentangled from their mutual possession and learned to love each other as real, limited, gloriously imperfect human beings. This case study vividly illustrates both the perils of animus possession and, importantly, the immense potential for personal and relational growth when these projections are consciously reclaimed.
And this concept extends beyond heterosexual relationships, doesn't it? Because love and attraction are far more diverse than Jung's original context.
Absolutely. While Jung conceived of the anima and animus as a biologically based structure, Jungian thinkers like Mitch Walker have skillfully applied the theory to same-sex relationships. They discuss concepts like the gay animus as the projected carrier of the capacity for same-sex intimacy and union, and the lesbian anima for same-sex emotional attunement.
So the underlying archetypal dynamic is still relevant.
Yes, it demonstrates how these archetypes can influence love and attraction, regardless of sexual orientation, highlighting the universal nature of these inner energies. Furthermore, these unintegrated archetypes can even play a role in infidelity, not as the sole cause, of course, but as deeper drivers.
Like unlived parts of oneself seeking expression.
Exactly, representing unlived needs or neglected aspects of oneself that seek expression outside the primary bond. By compassionately confronting these unlived needs, couples can potentially transform betrayal into a more conscious, fully inhabited bond, moving beyond unconscious patterns to a deeper level of authenticity.
So we've talked about the theory and the challenges. But for someone listening, trying to navigate these energies, what are some practical steps or techniques that Jungian thought offers for integrating these archetypes in daily life? How do we move from understanding to actual transformation?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? Jung and later Jungian practitioners have developed some concrete techniques for what they call animus development practices. One powerful technique is active imagination. This is Jung's method for directly engaging with autonomous psychic content.
Active imagination, how does that work?
Well, the basic procedure involves entering a meditative state, allowing a spontaneous fantasy image to arise, and then interacting with the image through dialogue or symbolic action. When working with the animus, you would start by visualizing your contrasexual archetype as a personified figure. A man might imagine his anima as an alluring feminine presence,
Okay.
while a woman would conjure her animus as a virile, dynamic, masculine entity. Then, using a sort of Socratic method, you pose questions to the figure and wait for its responses to emerge from your creative unconscious.
So you talk to this inner figure.
Yes. Through this imaginal conversation, your conscious ego develops a relationship with the animus, gradually integrating its messages and energies into consciousness. It's like having a deep conversation with a part of yourself you didn't even realize was there.
That sounds incredibly powerful, like accessing a hidden wisdom within yourself.
Yeah.
What about something more physical, something we can actually do with our bodies to help integrate these energies?
Yes. Another incredibly potent pathway for this integration involves contrasexual embodiment practices. This is about physically cultivating the somatic and energetic qualities often associated with the contrasexual archetype within your own body.
Okay, like feeling it in your body.
Exactly. For men, this could look like practices such as yin yoga, tai chi, or other gentle, receptive forms of movement. It could involve breath work designed to soften the belly and open the heart. or even singing, chanting, or toning in a high, melodious register. Even things like wearing flowing, graceful clothing like sarongs or kilts, or adorning oneself with jewelry can be a way to connect with these inner qualities of fluidity and expression.
And for women, the inverse. Cultivating their inner masculine through embodiment.
Precisely. For women, invoking the masculine might involve strength training, martial arts, or assertive dynamic dancing like hip-hop. It could be energizing breathwork techniques like breath of fire, or intoning resonant bass sounds from the pelvic floor and lower belly.
Grounding kind of sounds.
Yes, or donning structured attire like pants or suits, or exploring a sense of inner assertiveness and taking charge. The crucial point here isn't to fall back into regressive gender stereotypes.
Yeah.
Far from it.
Right. It's not about playing dress up in old roles.
No, it's about consciously and playfully expanding your embodied repertoire, incorporating energies that you might have previously disowned due to an over-identification with your assigned sex. Over time, this practice fosters a more integrated experience of self, an inner marriage of masculine and feminine currents, bringing these archetypes out of the shadows and into conscious, choiceful expression.
So it's about expanding your internal energetic vocabulary, adding more colors to your personal palette of being. That's a truly liberating way to think about it. And finally, because our intimate relationships are such intense crucibles for these projections, you mentioned anima and animus dialogues with partners. How does that work in practice? It sounds like it could be quite complex.
It can be, yes, but it's deeply rewarding when done carefully. It involves structured, ritualized conversations where partners deliberately speak from and to each other's inner anima or animus.
Speaking from the anima or animus. Wow.
It helps partners develop a profound empathy for each other's inner others, clearing the air of that archetypal static that often leads to misunderstandings. With each exchange, each partner reclaims a piece of their anima or animus shadow and cultivates a more spacious and accepting awareness of their beloved's true, complex self.
So you move beyond the projection.
Exactly. It's about moving beyond the initial projections to see and love the real, whole person, flaws and all. It's almost like having a meta conversation, where instead of arguing about the dishes, you're discussing the energies behind the frustration.
Getting to the root cause.
Leading to a profound understanding and fostering deeper intimacy.
Okay, so that's the inner dance. Moving from the individual psyche to the broader canvas of society, we see this dance of energies playing out in how masculinity and femininity are defined and redefined. It's crucial to understand that masculinity, like femininity, isn't a fixed biological given, it's a social construct, right?
Absolutely.
This means its definition and expression evolve constantly in response to changes in society and culture. Historically, we've seen what's often referred to as orthodox masculinity, a powerful dominant image.
The sort of tough, stoic, independent ideal.
Exactly. Where men were expected to be in charge, sometimes at the expense of women or other men. But contemporary shifts are leading to the emergence of new masculinities that actively challenge these restrictive stereotypes, signaling an embracing of a new male identity.
And what's truly fascinating is the concrete ways these contemporary masculinities are emerging. Researchers have identified several key types. For instance, there's the concept of hybrid masculinities, which describes straight white men in positions of power beginning to adopt cultural elements often associated with subordinate or marginalized masculinities.
Like showing more sensitivity.
Yes, like showing sensitivity, but, and this is key, while still maintaining traditional traits like being tough and strong. It's a blend, a selective integration.
Okay, so not a total transformation, but a shift.
Right. Then we have inclusive masculinity theory, which is underpinned by findings that homophobia is increasingly being rejected by straight men. They are including gay peers in their social networks and engaging both emotionally and physically with other men, which is a significant departure from older norms.
So we're seeing this fascinating trend towards inclusivity, where men are actively dismantling old barriers, not just tolerating diversity, but embracing it in their social circles, leading to more authentic connections. What else stands out about these contemporary masculinities?
Well, hand in hand with that is a dramatic shift in emotional intimacy, where men once, had to be stoic and resist sharing feelings, particularly with other men.
The strong, silent type again?
Exactly. Studies now show they're openly sharing intimate feelings and displaying emotions with their male friends. We've seen examples of rugby players openly supporting each other when coaches are tough on them, or young men aged 16 to 18 expressing their feelings freely and openly with their male friends.
That's a big change.
It is. Even fathers are prioritizing intimate relations and emotional experiences with their children, seeking a better work-family balance, which is a significant change from historical norms.
And the physical aspect, does that also evolve beyond just a handshake or a pat on the back?
It absolutely does. The third element is physicality, referring to increased levels of intentional touching among men. This is more evident in sporting and educational settings. Studies describe full embrace or full frontal hugs among cross-country runners, not just a brief pat on the back, and observed that participation in these behaviors was open and without fear of rejection.
More comfortable physical connection.
Yes. There's also evidence of sharing beds, leaning against each other, and touching faces or hair among male friends, performed openly and authentically. It's about a more expansive expression of connection. Same-sex kissing also occurs among university men, contextualized within close friendship groups, during sport, or when alcohol is consumed, indicating a loosening of old taboos.
Though maybe still with some caveats.
Though some still navigate a subtle pressure to assert heterosexuality, yes. It's not a complete erasure of old norms yet.
Yeah. And the last element.
Finally, there's a powerful element of resistance. This is the rejection of orthodox masculinity and traditional norms. Many young men in these studies are actively eschewing violence, with American soccer players reporting they had never been in a fight and did not see the sense in it.
Really? Rejecting fighting altogether?
Yes. Similarly, studies among high school students demonstrated that participants rejected violence, with school disciplinary records showing no physical altercations among students during the school year in one instance. This rejection of aggression and violence is being observed in various educational and social settings, signaling a conscious departure from outdated models of what it means to be a man.
Now, it's important to note the profile of the participants in these studies, right?
Yeah.
They are predominantly young, typically 16-25, middle-class, heterosexual men in Western cultures.
That's a crucial point. It raises the question, are these observed shifts in masculinity a result of intentional behavior changes, or are they more of a generational reaction to the current discourse around changing masculinity? The participants' profile suggests that these young men, being in a privileged position, often already possess the balance of power to choose how they perform their masculinity.
So they have more freedom to deviate.
Perhaps. While there is clear evidence of behavior change, there is also conflicting evidence that these same young men are still adhering to some traditional masculinity norms, like subtly asserting their heterosexual identity.
So the dynamic, evolving picture, not a complete break from the past, but certainly a powerful shift. And what are the broader benefits of these emerging masculinities for society as a whole?
Oh, the benefits are significant. These shifts contribute to decreased violence in society and help break down unequal power relations between men and women, moving towards a more gender-equal society. And for men themselves, the freedom to be open with feelings and emotions, to show vulnerability, has a direct positive effect on their mental health and well-being.
Which leads to better relationships overall.
Exactly. More positive relationships all around. It's about a more authentic and fulfilling way of being for everyone.
That's a truly transformative picture of evolving masculinity. Now, let's turn the coin over and consider the other side. What about the impact of traditional gender roles, especially for women? And how does this affect our mental well-being? Because the societal dance of these energies has profound implications for everyone.
Indeed, gender roles are profound social constructs that deeply influence our beliefs, attitudes, and ultimately our mental health. In traditional Western societies, gender ideology has long been shaped by a sexual division of labor. Women typically tasked with reproductive work within the home and family.
Domestic management, caregiving.
Right. And men expected to engage in productive work, contributing to public goods, economic recognition, social status. These divisions give rise to traditional stereotypes. Masculinity often involves dominance, leadership, competitiveness.
The doing energy we started with.
Yes. While femininity is associated with understanding, warmth, compassion, the feeling or being energy, these learned behaviors become ingrained expectations, influencing actions, earning societal approval or disapproval, and ultimately impacting mental health.
It's interesting to note that generally, traditional masculinity traits have been associated with better physical and mental health for men, lower depression and anxiety. But for femininity traits,
the influence of femininity traits on mental health remains less clear, often inconclusive in studies. What is consistently observed, though, is that women generally experience higher rates of physical and mental health problems globally compared to men.
So there's a clear disparity there.
Yes, suggesting a significant societal burden on women that's often tied to these traditional roles.
And this burden extends to individuals without children as well.
It does. For instance, women who prioritize careers over starting a family may face judgments of being less feminine and selfish. Child-free men might face similar negative evaluations compared to fathers. Even men who take on more domestic responsibilities might be seen as less manly. Deviating from these traditional roles can lead to discrimination and negative health effects.
But the impact is particularly stark when we look at motherhood beliefs, isn't it?
Absolutely. For women, motherhood carries a unique context. It's often seen as both a gender-based obligation and a defining aspect of identity. Moreover, motherhood, unlike fatherhood, is often described as intensive, meaning it's seen as the most significant role a woman can assume. But it also imposes strict demands, unattainable standards.
Like the invisible double workload.
Exactly, the productive and reproductive work. This ideology has been linked to lower self-efficacy, high stress, parental exhaustion, depression, reduced life satisfaction, and anxiety for mothers.
You recently explored this in a study focusing on Mexico, which has a distinct cultural context. What did you find there? How did that specific culture play into it?
The cultural context of Mexico is fascinating for this. Family and gender roles adhere strictly to societal expectations there, imposing significant pressure to conform. A central cultural aspect is affiliative obedience, a deep-seated value of prioritizing others' needs, like family or community, often above one's own. Self-sacrifice is core to identity.
So putting the collective first.
Yes. The traditional Mexican family is guided by the power and absolute supremacy of the father and the love and essential sacrifice of the mother. However, there's also a growing diversification of family structures, including the concept of other mothers, extended family, or community members helping care for children.
Like a village raising the child.
Kind of. This collective care could potentially offer a support network, reducing the parental burden.
So how did these cultural norms and beliefs about gender and motherhood connect to mental well-being in your findings? Were there surprises?
The study's findings revealed some fascinating and, yes, sometimes paradoxical correlations. Consistent with expectations, higher scores on traditional attitudes towards gender roles were significantly linked to more traditional motherhood beliefs, seeing it as a social duty, aligning with stereotypes.
Makes sense. Traditional leads to traditional.
Right. Conversely, non-traditional gender role attitudes related to non-traditional motherhood beliefs, like recognizing negative emotions in motherhood or viewing it as a personal decision. Now, here's the interesting paradox. Traditional attitudes toward gender roles were associated with lower anxiety and depression scores.
Lower. That seems counterintuitive.
It does, initially. While non-traditional attitudes were associated with higher levels of depression, this can be explained through what's called the congruence hypothesis. The idea is that individuals adhering to stereotypical gender roles, highly masculine men, highly feminine women, often experience better mental health because their behaviors align with cultural norms.
Ah, so conforming protects you from social pressure.
Exactly. It offers protection from social pressures, especially in collectivist societies like Mexico, where external social demands are prioritized. However, and this is the deeper finding, the study also found that individuals who embraced non-traditional attitudes toward both gender roles and motherhood beliefs tended to exhibit better psychological well-being overall.
So it's not just breaking free from one set of norms, but developing a consistent, integrated, non-traditional outlook across your entire belief system that brings the psychological benefits.
Precisely. It's about internal coherence with your non-traditional views.
That's a critical nuance. It's not enough to just reject the old. You need to build a coherent new framework for yourself. What about sex differences in these mental health outcomes?
Yes, there were clear sex differences. Women generally showed lesser alignment with traditional attitudes towards both gender roles and motherhood beliefs compared to men. However, women reported higher rates of depression and anxiety, along with lower psychological well-being scores than their male counterparts.
So even if they held less traditional views, they still fared worse mentally. Why?
It highlights the significant influence that traditional cultural norms still have on women's mental health. The reasons cited include persistent societal pressure related to bodily appearance, behavior, motherhood stereotypes, as well as issues like machismo, gender violence, and that burden of the double work shift employment plus domestic caregiving.
A heavy load. And did parenthood itself affect these attitudes? Did having kids push people back towards tradition?
The study noted a traditionalizing effect of parenthood, yes. Individuals with children, especially women, scored higher on traditional attitudes towards gender roles and motherhood beliefs. It suggests that becoming a parent can reinforce these conventional views, perhaps due to societal expectations or practical realities.
But the key takeaway isn't just being a parent, right? It's the beliefs around it.
Exactly. It's not simply the status of being a parent that affects mental health, but rather the underlying beliefs about parenting and motherhood. The belief that motherhood can generate negative emotions like fear and anxiety, significantly correlated with higher depression and anxiety and negatively predicted psychological well-being.
Believing it's hard makes it harder, essentially.
In a way, yes. Conversely, a strong belief in motherhood as a personal choice correlated with higher levels of positive psychological functioning. And in a cultural context like Mexico's, where parenthood is highly esteemed and collective care is common, it might even serve as a mental health protective factor. The sense of purpose and community support might alleviate stress. It's about the meaning and support structures, not just the role itself.
Fascinating. Now let's shift gears to the boardroom. It feels like the same underlying dynamics of structure and fluidity, doing and feeling, play out in the strategic decisions of organizations. Specifically, we looked at CIOs in Africa facing this profound challenge. Balancing innovation, that strategic vision, the bold moves.
The masculine drive, perhaps?
Perhaps. Balancing that with resilience, nurturing stability, building robust foundations.
The feminine capacity for holding and adapting.
Exactly. The African landscape presents unique hurdles, infrastructure gaps, regulatory nuances, talent shortages are very real, but it also offers immense promise.
A huge surge of innovation. Fintech, healthcare, agriculture, education.
Right. So for CIOs, this isn't a binary choice. It's a strategic balancing act demanding foresight, agility, and a clear roadmap in a fast-moving digital world.
It really is fascinating how these macro dynamics mirror the micro. How are technology leaders in Africa approaching this challenge to make smart, future-proof investment decisions?
Well, Theo Kreis from RetroRabbit's MarTech 21 articulates this as balancing boldness with backbone. He sees tech as a design challenge first, not just a budget item.
Design challenge, interesting. So form follows function.
Kind of. His key strategies emphasize interconnectedness. Choose systems that talk to each other, open APIs, clear data rules to avoid fragmented, isolated tools.
That fosters that more integrated, connected energy, allows teams to work faster, fewer mistakes.
Exactly. He also stresses designing resilience into services. This goes beyond simple security. It means planning for parts to fail without the whole system collapsing.
A nurturing approach, anticipating issues, building in self-healing.
Yes. Small tests, continuous monitoring are vital for early detection. And crucially, he advocates creating safe spaces for testing new ideas, pilots, skunkworks, startup partnerships.
So you can learn fast without betting the farm.
Right, and it signals a cultural permission to fail wisely. This balance of structured experimentation, that masculine drive with the nurturing space for learning, seems key.
And how should they measure success? It can't just be about outputs, surely.
No, exactly. Finally, he advises measuring impact, not just output. Uptime matters, but track how quickly teams learn, how many tests lead to real improvements, what users think.
A holistic view, seeing if innovation and resilience are growing together.
Right. He points out Africa's history of doing more with less means it's already great at smart, lean innovation, poised to lead in blending bold moves with strong foundations.
That demonstrates that capacity for both innovative structure and resilient adaptation.
That's a powerful framework. Building on that, what priorities does Michael Brink from Casa Software highlight for accelerating business success?
Michael Brink echoes these sentiments. His top priorities include AI and AI literacy, but he stresses, and this is crucial, that AI only works once you fully understand and manage your data. Breaking down data silos, establishing strong data foundations are critical first steps. Data is often restricted to specific systems.
So building that clear, robust foundation, the structure before the creative energy of AI can truly flourish.
Exactly. He champions agentic AI to enhance IT operations by automating fault finding, remediation, accelerating triage, and for business ops, automating routine tasks so people focus on higher value activities.
It's like giving your IT team a highly intelligent digital assistant. What else is on his radar for building resilience?
He stresses investing in automated orchestration of disaster recovery plans for business continuity, a smart option improving resilience and reducing costs.
That's foresight and nurturing, protecting the system.
Definitely. He also highlights proactive cybersecurity, AI-driven threat detection, managing application security debt, those unresolved vulnerabilities. AI can help manage that risk too.
And how does he view financial management within this tech landscape? How does the money fit in?
He believes integrating value stream management with FinOps can be a game changer. It improves transparency, aligns business objectives with delivery, fosters efficiency.
Creates shared purpose, reduces wasted investment?
Yes, giving a real-time view of plans, funding, progress, making it easier to spot risks and opportunities. Finally, cloud portability. Seamless migration between platforms like AWS, Azure, Google, even on-premises.
So you're not locked in.
Right. It's crucial for long-term sustainability versus cost balance. It represents that nimble adaptability, that responsiveness in a constantly changing tech landscape.
That's a comprehensive look at proactive and resilient strategies. Now, John McLaughlin from J2 Software brings a somewhat maybe starker critique. What's his take?
John McLaughlin puts it very bluntly. CIOs are wasting millions on the wrong tech. He argues the over-reliance on the next tool, AI, zero-trust platforms, fancy dashboards, is leading to a broken enterprise security model.
Broken, even with all the investment.
Yes. Despite massive investments, breaches keep happening, ransoms are paid. It creates an illusion of enterprise security. McLaughlin asserts this isn't a failure of effort, but a failure of strategy. The obsession with tools blinds leaders to the deeper truth. Resilience comes from visibility.
So for McLaughlin, it's about seeing clearly, understanding your true landscape, rather than just adding more layers of tech. What does he mean by visibility is the new resilience?
For McLaughlin, visibility is the new resilience. In today's complex environments, complexity explodes, and so do blind spots. CIOs who don't know exactly what they have, where it is, how it behaves, they're operating in the dark. Without visibility, he argues, no tool will protect you. You're just assuming you're secure until you're not.
And visibility isn't just a one-off thing.
No, it's not a monthly dashboard. It's real-time, continuous monitoring across every layer. The ability to detect and respond the moment something abnormal appears, not hours later. It's deep, continuous awareness, a truly nurturing approach to your digital ecosystem.
He advocates an assume breach mindset. What does that entail?
It means building infrastructure that is self-aware, responsive, and resilient for when, not if, things go wrong. He dismisses the debate around banning ransomware payments as a distraction.
Why a distraction?
He argues it won't stop cybercrime, it'll just turn victims into criminals. True resilience, he concludes, stems from knowing your assets, prioritizing based on real-world risk. A compromised CFO account is a catastrophe, a regular user less so, and having living plans tested and updated constantly.
Living plans, not static documents.
Exactly. As he puts it, static documents don't survive real attacks, living plans do. CIOs must lead with visibility and resilience, not blind spending. Innovation is essential, but not at the expense of foundational security. Ransomware isn't going away, AI-fueled cybercrime isn't going away. The job isn't to prevent every breach, it's to build systems that adapt, recover, and get stronger. You can't buy resilience, but you can architect for it. That defines the next generation.
That's a powerful and consistent message across these experts. True strength, whether for an individual or a corporation, comes from this blend of strategic foresight and inherent resilience, building the capacity to both move boldly forward and withstand challenges. And that brings us to an incredibly compelling statistic. Companies with diverse executive teams are 33% more likely to outperform their peers on profitability.
33%, wow.
It underscores the tangible benefits of variety at the table. This isn't just demographics, it's fundamentally about embracing diverse perspectives and approaches, the very strategic vision and nurturing innovation we've been discussing.
Integrating the get-it-done drive and the feel-right sensibility.
Exactly, into the strategic fabric. Ultimately, it's this balanced integration that fosters sustainable growth and resilience. Our deep dive today has truly been a journey through the fundamental dance of energy shaping our lives. It began with that everyday scene at the hardware store. A man focused on getting it done, a woman needing it to feel right, a quiet moment mirroring profound dynamics at every level.
What we've explored from understanding Carl Jung's archetypes of anima and animus isn't about imposing rigid binaries or, limiting people to outdated gender stereotypes. Instead, it's about recognizing the internal masculine and feminine currents within each of us. Integrating these inner selves, as Jungian psychology suggests, is a pathway to authenticity and wholeness in our personal lives and relationships.
Helping us move beyond those unconscious projections into more conscious connections.
Right. And as we zoomed out to the societal level, we saw how notions of masculinity and femininity are constantly evolving. The emergence of new masculinities, inclusivity, emotional intimacy, different physicality, resistance to old norms shows a clear societal shift towards more balanced expressions of self.
Yet we also examined the persistent pressures of traditional gender roles, particularly for women, and their paradoxical impact on mental well-being, highlighting the need for continued reevaluation.
Absolutely. And finally, in the strategic realm of corporate leadership, we saw this same dance play out between the drive for bold innovation, that inherent masculine energy of structure and action, and the crucial need for nurturing resilience, the feminine energy of adaptability, connection, deep understanding.
Leaders are realizing true growth and stability come not from prioritizing one over the other, but from integrating both.
Exactly. Architecting systems and cultures that can move fast while staying solid, learning from setbacks, getting stronger. This deeper understanding we gain from recognizing and embracing the interplay of these seemingly contrasting energies, whether in personal relationships, societal roles, or corporate leadership, is not about taking sides. It's about unlocking wholeness, fostering authenticity, and building genuine resilience. It's about seeing that both the drive to do and the need to feel are essential for anything to truly work and thrive.
This balanced approach is what allows us to navigate the complexities of our inner and outer worlds with greater consciousness, flexibility, and ultimately maybe greater fulfillment.